Hey, what's up guys? So we're in January now, happy 2021, and we have to talk about this new shop. So you might have already heard some other YouTubers talk about it because Asia servers got it first and all that stuff, but I need to give you guys some important information and talk about just how good these Blackcliff weapons are and just how good this new shop is, because it's actually insane, and a lot of people sort of make new videos on shops just to like get attention and be like, oh yeah, buy this, but I want to talk to you guys about why these are so good and why you should not skip this shop. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people were hyping up the previous shops that had like royal weapons and stuff, and honestly, when we look at Blackcliff weapons and compare them to royal, we see how much better Blackcliff is and why you should not skip this if you do have Starglitter. And since the shop is out for a while, even as a free-to-play player, you might be able to get enough Starglitter to buy some of these weapons. I know on my free-to-play account, I have like almost 20 Starglitter, so I'm definitely getting close. And before we start, I just want you guys to know that I'm going to be streaming every night on Twitch. I will be streaming tonight. Link in the description if you are interested. Okay, let's go. So if we look at this month's shop, we'll see that everything is completely different from last month. So if you guys remember, there used to be royal weapons in here, which aren't that great because they give you attack as a substat and they increase your crit rate if you don't crit. So in order for them to be good, you have to not crit for the first few hits. Now they're not terrible, but they don't even compare to how good these Blackcliff weapons are. We're going to talk about these Blackcliff weapons one by one. Then we're going to talk about Fischl and Xiangling's Constellations. And yes, I have both maxed because they were on Venti banner, which is like one of the few banners I actually spent money on. First, we're going to talk about Blackcliff weapons in general, then we're going to go in detail on each one. So the reason why Blackcliff weapons are so good in general is because the substat for all of them, like the main stat that you get apart from attack, is crit damage, and that is insane. Crit damage and crit rate, as you guys know, are the best stats possible for DPS characters, and even some supports. So because of that, leveling this all the way will make your crit damage get really high and will just be insane because then you can build more crit rate on your artifacts and deal more damage overall. On top of that, a lot of these have pretty high base attack, like this longsword with 44 base attack, which is very, very high. And just to show you guys, something like the Lion's Roar only has 42 base attack, the Flute 42, and I think Prototype Rancor also has 44, so it's definitely a high base attack sword. So on top of having the same substat on every single Blackcliff weapon, they all also have the same effect. Now, do note that the substat of crit damage does change, like it's 12% here where it was 8% on this one, and the base attack also changes. And one of the reasons we have to talk about these is because some of these are just like best in slot or the best 4-star by far on a lot of characters. So the effect for all of them is the same. And honestly, even without this effect, they would be good. Like even because what it does is after you defeat an opponent, your attack is increased by 12% and it can stack 3 times. So this is obviously very good in places like Abyss where there are a lot of enemies. You can focus the small ones first, get that 12% increase attack times 3, so up to 36, and it goes even higher if you refine it. Obviously, you can buy multiple of these if you have Starglitter, and that'll just be a nice bonus attack. But even without that effect, these weapons are still good because of the high crit damage that you get as a main stat, and also some of these do have a high base attack. Now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to talk about every weapon in this shop in particular and talk about why this shop is so good and you shouldn't skip it. We're going to talk about each Blackcliff weapon and who it's good on. Then we're going to talk about Fischl Constellations, Xiangling Constellations, and then just the other stuff in this shop, which don't really change. First of all, let's talk about the Blackcliff Longsword. This is an amazing sword because it has a very high base attack, and crit damage as a substat on a sword is so good. It's one of the reasons why the Black Sword is so good because it has a crit rate substat, and no other sword apart from like a 3-star has that. So having crit on a sword is so important, and Blackcliff Longsword on like a DPS Kea or even a Kaching or something is just so strong. So I would definitely recommend getting this if you need a weapon for any of your DPS sword characters. Actually, to go more in detail, I use Aquila on my DPS Kea because of its high base attack, but since I convert his damage into cryo with Chongyun anyways, the physical damage bonus isn't needed, so having something like a crit damage substat would be very, very nice, and the effect of the Blackcliff is actually will give you more attack than Aquila if you do defeat like 2 or 3 enemies. Keep in mind, this is a 5-star sword that I'm comparing it to, which is just showing you how strong this Blackcliff sword really is. So I would definitely recommend it for sword users that do want to be auto-attacking and dealing damage. Alright guys, now we have a meaty one to talk about, the Blackcliff Slasher. Now if you paid attention to the previous weapon, you'll see that this one's crit damage substat is much higher, and this scales really hard, so it'll really ramp up to being a lot of crit damage. Now a lot of people ask me, is Blackcliff Slasher better than Aminus on like Razor, Diluc, how does it compare to Serpent Spine, all that stuff? Well, let me answer it. First of all, the Blackcliff Slasher is just better than Aminus because it gives you crit damage as a substat instead of attack percent. And obviously you don't want to just be spamming attack percent into your character. Once you add so much of it, it becomes not that important, and crit is just much better. On top of that, the effect is nice, and arguably you can say the Aminus effect is better, sure, but at the same time, is the Aminus effect better than 12% crit damage at level 1? I would say no, and just DPS wise, Blackcliff Slasher is better. So how does this weapon compare to the Battle Pass weapon, the Serpent Spine? Crit damage to crit rate, the ratio is usually 2 to 1, so 2 crit damage for every 1 crit rate is usually what you're going for. So when we look, 12% crit damage here versus 6% crit rate on Serpent Spine with the same base attack makes them similar stat-wise, well, basically the same. It just depends on your current artifacts. If you're crit damage heavy, you might want this one. If you're crit rate heavy, you might want the other. But it mainly comes down to the effect. Now, this effect can be a blessing and a curse. If you can constantly make it so to where you're dealing a ton more damage and you're constantly at 5 stacks, then this weapon's great. But if you're in a place where you, like some Abyss floors where you have this constant damage on you, or when you're just taking a ton of damage and you can't make the effect work, then Blackcliff is obviously better. But in some situations, Serpent Spine is better. So it depends on your character and what you're using it for. But yeah, personally, I like Blackcliff better. But if you already bought this, you might not want to get the Blackcliff because Serpent Spine is good as well. So I think both of them are very comparable and depend on your current artifacts and where you're using it. Alright, now we're going to talk about the Blackcliff pole, and this is honestly the main reason why I'm making this video. Blackcliff pole is just so good, guys. You might be asking, well, why is it so good when the Blackcliff Slasher has the same stats? Well, the thing with the Blackcliff Slasher is, 1, it's amazing, but 2, there are very good 4-star options for Claymore users, which means it's not as necessary to get the Blackcliff Slasher if you already have like a refined prototype Archaic and you don't want to swap it out by spending Starglitter. But for polearm users, there aren't many good 4-star spears. Now, Crescent Pike is broken for physical DPSs, so if your character is a physical DPS like Zhongli or Xiangling, and you're running them as DPS, right? Zhongli can be support, same with Xiangling, but if you are running them a physical DPS, you don't want Blackcliff pole. But if you're running them as a support, having that crit damage on Blackcliff pole, if you don't need like energy recharge or something, is insane. And then if you're running a DPS like Xiao, who probably won't be a physical damage dealer, right? He'll probably be an Anemo DPS. Blackcliff pole will be the best 4-star spear on him. Now, the only other spear that compares is the Deathmatch, which I bought from the Battle Pass. If we look here, the thing with the Deathmatch though is the effect is okay, but the base attack is low. 41 base attack, Blackcliff pole is higher with 42. So basically Deathmatch will give you 8% crit rate, 41 base attack, and 16% to 24% attack bonus. Whereas the Blackcliff pole will give you 12 times 3, and obviously you can refine both weapons to get more. But overall, Blackcliff pole and Deathmatch are like the only 2 good 4-star spears for a character that wants to DPS without dealing physical damage, right? If it's physical, Pike, but if you're doing like Anemo damage or something else, Blackcliff pole and Deathmatch are going to be the 2 really good 4-star spears, and obviously 5-star ones will still be better. That's why I recommend either getting this with your Starglitter or getting the Battle Pass Deathmatch if you are planning on building like Xiao, or if you are, even as a support for Zhongli, I personally use Deathmatch because I like critting a huge number, you know, putting him in, especially Abyss 12, which does give geo damage bonus. I swap him in, use my ult, deal like 100k damage, swap him out, and that's because of the crit rate or crit damage on the substat of the spear, which lets me build more of crit damage or crit rate on my artifacts. Now we're going to talk about the last 2. So Blackcliff Agate is the one I'm least excited of. Now it is good. You have a 12% crit damage as a substat with the same other stuff as the other weapons, and it's just nice. But most Catalyst users tend to be support, and then for the DPS ones, the Battle Pass option is just so amazing that if you can get that, I would recommend that. So the Solar Pearl is just so good on like Klee, Ningguang, but Blackcliff Agate can be a nice option for the crit damage substat. It's just that Catalyst users already have such good options with like the Mappa Mare being a free-to-play option, and the Battle Pass weapon, if you can get that I usually don't recommend spending your Starglitter on the Blackcliff Catalyst, but it is very good, and it is a good option if you do want it because of the crit damage. So to go in a little more detail, I like Solar Pearl better because the stats are similar. And then when you look at the effect, the Solar Pearl just has an insane effect. So I would definitely recommend this over the Blackcliff. But if you can't afford the Battle Pass or whatever, the Blackcliff option can be good. But it just depends on your character. Like, make sure it's better than Mappa Mare or any other 4-star book you have, because there are many good ones. For the Blackcliff Warbow, this one has a very high base attack with a nice substat. So it can be good for DPS like Child as a good 4-star option. However, I still think Rust and the Viridescent Hunt, which is the Battle Pass bow, are both better. However, I think this is a good option if you don't have the Battle Pass bow, or for characters like Fischl that do want that crit and attack. So high base attack is nice because, you know, obviously Oz can crit and does a lot of damage. So having this on her can be good, but I don't think it compares to something like Stringless, or even I think Viridescent Hunt is better. So overall, this bow is very good, but I don't think it is like a must buy, whereas something like a Blackcliff Longsword, if you don't have better options, can be really, really beneficial. All right, now let's talk about the Constellations, Fischl and Xiangling. First of all, we're going to start with Fischl. So yeah, since Fischl's in the shop, you can either get her or get Constellations for her, both of which are great options. Now, as you guys know, I love Fischl and her Constellations are insane. Like, she's a character who's amazing C0, but as you evolve her Constellations, she just gets better and better. And if you get her C6, she's just a whole different beast. Like, this C6 makes her so good. So without talking for 10 minutes about each one, you guys should just know that they're all pretty nice. C1 is good, especially if you're attacking on Fischl, running her as a DPS or whatever. And then C2 is insane. You do a bunch of damage. Literally, when you press your E, when you use Knight Rider, you just do a ton of damage and it's just nuts. And then all the others are very good, especially C6. If you can get this, your Fischl is just one tier above what she was previously. So as you guys know, Oz does last longer and will deal 30% of your attack on Fischl as electro damage, which is nuts. So you can either buy Fischl if you don't have her or get Constellations for her, both of which are insane. Obviously, Fischl is just an amazing support, an S tier support, who's great at Constellation 0, but with Constellations, she gets even better. Now let's talk about Xiangling. Xiangling is a great pyro support, and a lot of comps do need pyro. And on top of that, if you are running a pyro DPS like, say, Diluc, you can run Xiangling as well to give her to get that pyro resonance, which is very good. Now, obviously, everyone gets Xiangling for free when you clear floor 3 Abyss, but her Constellations can be very nice. As you guys see, C1 is good because it reduces pyro resistance, which is good for Xiangling herself, but even better if your main DPS is a pyro. Having pyro resistance of an enemy decreased when you have Diluc main DPS will just make you do a ton of damage. On top of that, her other Constellations are all very good. Obviously, these two will increase her levels, which just means more damage overall. C2 is good for DPS Xiangling because it's when you normal attack a lot. And then Slow Bake is one of the best Constellations for her. It makes Pyronado 40% longer, which is nuts. Because Pyronado is the main reason you run Xiangling as like support. It's just such a good ability. It does a ton of pyro damage. Having that 40% increased duration is insane. And finally, the 15% pyro damage bonus for C6 when you have your Pyronado active is good, especially if your main DPS is a pyro. If you run her with like Diluc and you have 15% pyro damage bonus, that's just a lot more damage from everything you do. So the last thing I want to say is Intertwined Fates and Acquaint Fates can be worth buying, but they don't change at all. Like, these things don't change month to month. It's only the Blackcliff Weapons and the Constellations that change. Now, keep in mind, Blackcliff is better than Royal, in my opinion, and just pretty much objectively. Like, Blackcliff is so good and Royal is okay. So I would recommend getting these right now or getting these characters because this is a very good shop and who knows what's in the next months. But obviously, buying Fates with your Starglitter is a decent option as well. Don't feel forced to get these weapons if you already have good options. I just felt like normally I wouldn't talk about the shop unless it's amazing, and this month's is amazing, so I want to talk about it and just let you guys know that yes, Blackcliff weapons are good because a lot of people ask my opinion on them and want to know if it's better than like the free-to-play alternatives, and I tried to go over every single one in this video, so I hope it helped. But yeah, so if you do have Starglitter, if you spent money on the game or if you got lucky as a free-to-play, definitely consider spending it if you need a weapon or Fischl or Xiangling as a character or a constellation for them. Now, I know this wasn't my typical type of video, but I really hope you guys enjoyed. I'm trying new stuff, and also I'm trying to make a Abyss guide, which is taking a while, so I need to make other videos while waiting for that one to finish, because there's a lot of information to cover, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be streaming live on Twitch tonight. Come check it out if you want, link in the description. Thanks so much for the support, guys. It's been unreal. I'm sorry if I talk fast, I'm trying to slow it down. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I want to keep this video kind of short. I hope I kept it short, I don't even know. That being said, guys, subscribe if you want to. If you don't, that's okay too, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.